Ladies and gentlemen, tariffs is the word of the day. In fact, tariff is the word of the month, if not of the year. We've seen Trump bringing out tariffs against the European Union, against Vietnam, but specifically against China, who have come out in the last couple of days and retaliated with tariffs of their own. This has sparked concerns of a potential trade war with China, which of course is a very, very daunting thing, leading to the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq collapsing downwards about 10% in the last couple of days, down 17 to 18% from the peak, which we saw back here in February. And of course, panic is in the air amongst traditional market investors and also crypto investors, which is interesting considering the fact the cryptocurrency market has held up quite well, even in spite of all of this nonsense on the S&P 500. So we'll dive into crypto specifically today. I'm not going to dwell too much on the tariffs, given the fact this is a cryptocurrency channel, and given the fact I am predominantly concerned with Bitcoin, which has a larger 4-year cycle. This is more or less noise to Bitcoin, and the charts have proven that. We've remained in a period of consolidation. We've remained within the very same structure we've been holding since around November last year. It's been a very boring year so far for crypto. In a lot of ways. If you look at the price, it's been boring. If you look at the structure, it's been boring. It's just felt very concerning. It's just felt very volatile because of what's happened specifically to the altcoin market. Bitcoin itself is fine. Bitcoin itself is within that descending wedge formation, matching what we saw in 2024. We had an 8 to 9 month consolidation in 2024, a descending channel structure which which kind of engulfed the entirety of the year. We could be seeing something very similar right now. So I'll focus on this today. I'll focus on what Bitcoin needs to do, not on the S&P 500. I'll focus on what Bitcoin needs to avoid doing and what it needs to break in order to swing back to the upside and continue this bull market. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into that, I want to check out one single thing here. It's the Bitunix exchange. Now, everyone who is involved in the cryptocurrency market needs a place to buy and sell cryptocurrency. Primarily, your concern should be safety and should be fees. Now, you're paying them fees on every single trade you make, and also you're keeping your funds on the exchange and you're trusting them to keep them safe for you. So this is an exchange that has never been hacked before and an exchange that has very low trading fees in comparison to its competition, made even lower with my referral link down below. With that referral link, if you use it to sign up, you'll get access to a 15% trading fee discount attached to your account for life. So if you're interested in that, if that sounds interesting to you, you can help out the channel and help out yourself by using that referral link down below to sign up. It takes literally 15 seconds with just an email address and a password. Check it out, guys. Let's get into the content. Ladies and gentlemen, just a quick disclaimer before we get into it. This video was filmed on an iPad. My last video as well was filmed on an iPad. I'm away from the office right now. I'll be returning in about a week's time. And for that reason, it's a little bit hard to show you what I need to show you, technically speaking, but I try my best here and I get all the content I think you need to see across in this video. So if you're interested in my analysis, I do get it across. Just bear with me at times. The technical difficulties do get a bit difficult to navigate. Guys, thank you. I appreciate you. Let's get into it. Just taking a step back here before we get into it, I just want to start out with the altcoin market itself, starting out with Ethereum, looking at the total 3 cryptocurrency market cap, otherwise known as the altcoin market cap, the total market cap minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. So looking specifically at altcoins themselves. Altcoins are a mess. Okay, let's just get that off the table straight away. We've gotten that off the table with the S&P 500. It's a bit of a mess, but it's not really our primary concern. So what about altcoins? They're a mess as well. We've got Ethereum, which is doing absolutely horribly for this point in the cycle. We know the 4-year cycle is the driving motivator of the cryptocurrency market. We know right now that is basically the clamor of hope for Bitcoin. Unfortunately, it hasn't held up for Ethereum and altcoins as well as it has done previously. So we've got the altcoin market and Ethereum breaking down from 2 or 3 different major macro support zones. There's one in pink. There's another in pink. We are currently at levels on Ethereum that we have not seen since 2023. Yes, we're forming a potential double bottom here. Yes, it's likely we reverse here, especially if Bitcoin does as well. But it's not good to be this low at this phase of the cycle. That's the simple truth. And the same conclusion can be made and said about the total 3. So we'll bring that up on the screen right now. Apologies, not as fast as I usually am here. I'm on an iPad today, which is a bit of a change. But we can see here on the total 3, if we go to the weekly chart, which is really what I'm concerned about on the total 3, we have this very, very major uptrending support line on the RSI. So momentum indicators are very important on macro scales. in the cryptocurrency market specifically, as you can see here in yellow, 2.5-year long support line on the RSI has actually broken to the downside. Not only that, but the resistance support flip has occurred, which is very bad news. So not only did we break it down, we went down below it, came back up, tested as resistance, and we're going back down again. Couldn't get much worse than that from a structural perspective, especially given the fact this has all happened in context with a resistance retest from the 2021 all-time high and a firm rejection downwards. Very bad stuff for the total 3 cryptocurrency market cap. And just to end it off with another dose of negativity here, sorry about this, we're going to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, which is not looking much better. In fact, again, just further validating what I said, altcoins are not where they need to be at this point of the cycle. We look at Bitcoin dominance, and we know, of course, cryptocurrency market moves according to the date range trend that is the 4-year cycle, and hence the Bitcoin dominance chart had done that previously. We previously saw altcoin seasons lasting 315 days exactly. That occurred in 2017 through to 2018 and in 2020 through to 2021. If that was to occur again, we would have had to see the Bitcoin dominance chart begin dropping on a macro scale way back here in around October last year. In fact, we're here in March now, or even April, 5 months later, 6 months later even, from when we were meant to start dropping, and we are still rising on a macro scale. So the fact of the matter is, altcoins are not where they need to be. Can they recover? Yes, they certainly can. If Bitcoin does continue upwards, we could form some unique version of an altcoin season, but we shouldn't expect it to be much like what we've seen historically from a structural perspective. Now, we do know how money flows in cryptocurrency. Generally speaking, what happens is in a bull market, Bitcoin moves first. People get bored of Bitcoin. They flip their money into altcoins. That's how the money flow cycle works. After that, altcoins top out. Everyone gets sick of the market in general, or they get way too greedy. Everything maxes out and they flip their money back into stable coins and eventually back into Bitcoin in the bear markets. That's how the market has always worked. That's how the money flow cycle has always worked. I don't see it working any other way. So technically speaking, we should see an altcoin season of some sort if Bitcoin does continue this bull market. But will it look anything like what we've seen before? It's very, very difficult to say, given the fact we've seen such sweeping invalidations across Ethereum, across the total 3, and now across the Bitcoin dominance chart. So now that that is out of the way, and that's something we've made a conclusion on multiple times over the last couple of weeks, we can finally get down to what actually matters here, Bitcoin. Because even for altcoins, it's Bitcoin that matters. Bitcoin is the leader of the cryptocurrency market, and for altcoins to have any chance of recovery from their horrible position, we're going to need to be seeing a Bitcoin pump. So let's look into Bitcoin. This is something perhaps a lot of investors or analysts skip. They skip over this perhaps because they haven't seen it, or perhaps out of ignorance, or perhaps because they're distracted by what's going on in traditional markets right now. But I like to bring it up, and I've brought it up a few times now. It's what we saw that actually led to the breakdown in the first place. Now, before this was identifiable as a massive descending wedge formation, what it was a diagonal consolidation pattern with white lines. You can see stemming backwards from prior cycles. One of these lines coming all the way backwards from 2021, and one of them coming all the way backwards from back here in 2018. And these lines formed macro support and macro resistance. And what we saw was basically a massive double top formation. We broke down below that white line of support. Unfortunately, I can't really use the brush to outline where I'm talking out right now. I'm on an iPad. It's quite difficult. Hope you can bear with me there. But what led to that breakdown from that white support line was actually a rejection, a continued rejection over the course of 3 weeks of the Gaussian channel center line, which you can see there in thick red and thick green. For that reason, given the fact that that level led to our resistance retest before a breakdown from macro support, I want to be seeing that level taken again before I regain bullishness in the market. It's very, very simple, okay? So a breakout of that descending wedge formation with a breakout of that Gaussian channel center line, and even a breakout back above that white line, which led to this cataclysmic drop on Bitcoin. That would put us at about 90,000. If all of that occurs, I will confidently say that Bitcoin is back in a strong position through which it can look to retest all-time highs and potentially take them once again. Until that occurs, I see Bitcoin in a consolidation pattern, in a descending wedge, and I see not really much going on. That's the simple truth for me to the upside. Now, what about the downside? What does Bitcoin need to avoid doing? Well, that's a bit more of a complex question, and that's going to have to take us to the weekly chart. So we discussed 3 things in this video: Bitcoin, S&P 500, and altcoins. Altcoins right now are unviable. The analysis is actually getting very difficult to do because they've broken a lot of their structural trends, which previously offered clarity in the darkness. Right now, they're back in the darkness. S&P 500, which can develop very, very quickly if new information comes out. I don't think we should be watching that too closely as cryptocurrency investors. What we need to focus on is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still in the same exact pattern. all of the noise on altcoins, all of the noise on the S&P 500 may lead people to want to do very silly things with their cryptocurrency investments. But I ask you, why? Why would you change what you're doing with Bitcoin until there is actual evidence on the Bitcoin chart itself that something has changed? At the moment, I see no change in the cryptocurrency chart. Yes, there's a lot of external influence, but nothing concrete has actually occurred. We're still in the same exact pattern. And until that pattern breaks, even with a break to the upside of about 90,000 or a break to the downside of about 70,000, literally nothing has changed here. Guys, I want to end off this video by saying I'm sorry for the sloppy analysis. I'm sorry for not being as quick as I usually am. Again, I am on an iPad. I'll be back on my laptop within a few videos and back home. So look forward to that. And when I return, of course, I will give you a very extensive analysis on the things I have missed in the last couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys. Catch you soon.